Hello and welcome to the CK webinar series. Thanks for joining us. I can see quite a few people have piled into the webinar already. So we're probably going to get started fairly promptly actually. So just to give you the theme for this webinar, we're going to be taking our first steps with Microsoft Teams in this webinar. And just to give you an idea, that's going to be the majority of what we're going to be covering during the seminar today. And we're going to spend sort of roughly around 40 minutes on taking your first steps with Microsoft Teams. So I've got Caroline with me. She'll do an introduction very shortly, and she's going to be sort of taking us through our first steps with Microsoft Teams. Just a couple of other perks. We're going to be giving away a free ebook with everyone who registers for this webinar today. There's also a chance to win a £50 Amazon voucher, which we'll be doing at the end of the session. And we're also going to be helping you with your deployment of Microsoft Teams by talking about a few things that you might be interested in. Our new one-day Teams course that's been written very recently. So it's all up to date and contains lots of valuable information about Microsoft Teams. We'll also be talking about your options for supporting and educating your business, as well as how we at Combined Knowledge can support you with your Microsoft Teams success. Okay, I think we'll do introductions. Caroline's with me at the moment. I'll let her get started.
Hello, my name's Caroline Lee. I'm Office specialist at Combined Knowledge. My history is web development. Started off with web development, then moved into SharePoint, which I loved, but spent most of my life making SharePoint look anything but like SharePoint. The last year has predominantly been end user adoption, all aspects of that really, helping right from start to finish, delivering the training as well as planning the training. It's not just the software, it's the culture, I think is the thing that goes along there. And I've also been speaking at quite a few events about Teams, so some of you may have already met me.
And my name is Chris Casangina. You may have caught me on the last feedback webinar that we did around Microsoft Forms. So I'm back again, and I'm the Technical Content and Training Lead Manager at Combined Knowledge. So my focus is similar to Caroline's around helping people get the most success out of Office 365. I've also been a technical editor for the Microsoft Step-by-Step book series, and like Caroline as well, I speak at conferences and community events around the UK as well. So as a thank you for being our delightful audience, our captive audience today, we're going to be offering you a download for a free ebook on building a successful modern workplace through Teams and Office 365. Thank you for registering for the webinar today. We've got your email addresses, so we will do something nice with that and send you all a free ebook that you can redeem after the course. Caroline's been fishing for that today, haven't you?
Yeah, I've just got my copy.
Yeah, so she's like, I want that copy of that book, and say it's quite valuable. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. So I think we should just jump straight into it. We've got a few prizes to give away right at the end of the webinar, but let's give you some really good value straight off the bat by talking about your first steps with Microsoft Teams. So whether you're new to Teams and you can see it on the horizon, your organization wants to get into Teams, or whether you've got Teams and you're kind of thinking, hey, this doesn't really have the traction that we were expecting. What can we do? Let's sort of borrow Caroline's knowledge and let's have a bit of a discussion around that this afternoon. So I think what I'll do is I'll lead into why we think this is a good idea for a webinar. You may disagree, but why we think this is a good idea for a webinar, where it came from, and then I'm going to let Caroline sort of explain to you how to get started in Teams. So the idea from this webinar is effectively around the fact that Office 365 is a very expansive selection of tools, and these tool sets are being deployed into businesses all around the world. And one of the ways that this is sold into businesses is the cloud offers many benefits to its users, from the ability to remote work to having applications that you know and applications that are brand new that you think, what is Sway, what is Forms, what are all these different things? And one of these newer products is Microsoft Teams, which is almost the gateway into Office 365. And it helps tie all of the most used tools by your team into one place, as well as maybe even some third-party solutions as well. One of the reasons that Teams is becoming a big talking point in organizations is that effectively Teams will replace Skype for Business, which is a key tool for communication in organizations. So Teams has the same, in fact, if not better functionality than Skype for Business. Quite often you might say, oh, the call was a bit odd with Skype. It dropped out, or I had audio issues. In fact, Caroline called me the other day, and we actually decided, because I had such bad audio issues.
Sounded like a Dalek.
Yeah, it was so many audio quality issues that we actually just jumped onto Teams and continued the call there, and it was fine.
Yeah.
It's really good.
A lot of the clients I'm talking to say that they're using Teams more than Skype now.
Yeah.
Just because of that, because Skype keeps dropping out.
Yeah.
The cynic in me would say, "Oh, it's just some conspiracy with Skype, so to make you use Teams." I'm sure that's not true.
The architecture behind it is very stable, and it's more feature rich. I mean, Caroline's going to show you some really cool reasons why you should do meetings through Teams. And as Teams is entering the workplace, the reason that this webinar has come about is that often people are saying to us, how did other organizations tackle going ahead with Microsoft Teams? So as we go through the upcoming demonstrations, Caroline and I are going to be expecting questions from you, and that's absolutely fine to list questions, but just bear in mind that we'll answer the questions right at the end of the webinar. We've got a certain amount of time that we've allocated for discussion and demonstration, and then we've got a section on Q&A right at the end. So please ask questions, just pop them in the chat window, and we'll obviously tackle those right at the end of the seminar.
Yeah, we've got to put a stopwatch on me, because otherwise when I start talking about Teams, I'll be going for hours.
If Caroline sees my foot tapping and me fidgeting in my chair, she knows that she's running out of time. I'll let you take it away, Caroline. I'm going to be jumping in on this demo from time to time too.
So the first thing, what is Teams? It is another one. It's another application, part of the Office 365 suite. So we get these questions all the time of, I don't know when to use what, when. And Teams is another one to add to that. He's like, when should I use it? Why would I use it? But Teams is new kid on the block. Hopefully it will help with that issue, because Teams allows you to bring in other applications, not just Microsoft applications either. So other things, if you've got cloud-based apps that you use regularly, you can bring those into Teams. You can add bots into Teams. So it's everything. You can try and bring everything into the one area, so you're not flitting about too much. It's a private area as well as a collaboration area. So you've got your own private files and your own private chat and communications, but you've also got team chat, and that area, a brilliant way to collaborate with your teams, be that project teams or your actual physical team that you sit in at work. So I think, we've got teams in Teams, so it does sound a little confusing when I show it. In fact, they've just renamed calendar meetings. I wonder whether they'll name Teams something. I don't know. So why would I use Teams? Well, there's many reasons why you'd use Teams. As an organisation, there is the fact that you've got the governance. Behind the scenes, you've got Office 365 compliance and security suite, and you've got policies in there, which of course you can apply to Teams. So whereas at the moment you've probably got people using WhatsApp groups, instead they could have a team. They've got the mobile app. It works probably better than WhatsApp now. We used to use WhatsApp, but Teams, and then it's your company. It's all governed by your company policies as well then. So you could use it for that, for collaboration, but it is mainly for this collaboration with your teams, sharing your documents, getting all your information together, and dealing with that one, that issue. When do I use what? So where can I use Teams? You can use Teams in the browser. You can use Teams on your mobile phone. You can use Teams with the desktop app. The desktop app is really good, obviously, but you do need an internet connection.
Yeah.
It doesn't work standalone. The mobile app is brilliant, really, really good. And also, the browser, you will find you've got some anomalies dependent on which browser you use.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Edge, it's starting to work really well now.
That's right, yeah.
Always were a Chrome sort of thing, but and then I've started dip back into Edge again the other day and noticed that all the video capability and everything was there.
That's right, yeah.
Edge would be the preferred browser, I think, now for Teams, and that's something you wouldn't have heard me saying 6 months ago. So what access can someone be granted, and what can they see or do? Well, again, this is totally customizable by you. There's things that you can set at an organisation level, so you can decide whether you, for instance, you're going to allow external guests to be in your team.
Yep.
Whether you're going to allow the sharing of documents externally. Again, that can be set at an organisational level. But then on a Teams level, you can decide which sort of team it is. If it's a public team, so anybody can join it, anybody within the organisation, that is. Private, so you're going to own it and you're going to limit who can be a member. It's up to you. You're going to agree who those members are. Or then there's organisation ones where everyone just automatically becomes a member of that team, and it shows.
And that's quite new, isn't it?
It is quite new. The one thing to be aware of that is people can choose to leave it.
Sure.
So you're hindering it, but you can leave it, which is where you get people say they'll use Yammer instead of Teams, because they can use Yammer and force the organisation messages on them.
And you can control at an organisation level who can create teams as well, can't you?
Yeah, and that's a big one. I think when you first roll out Teams, a lot of people say, oh, well, we'll just let people use it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, then you can end up with too many teams, and people don't know which team they should be using in, and you get teams doing duplicate work. So plan it out, get a little bit of governance in place. You can also use naming conventions. So you might want to prefix any team that is project related with the letter P, for instance.
Yeah.
So just P, P and then the name of the project, or T if it's a team one.
Yeah.
That's sort of things that make it easier for people to say. And the other thing is always put a description in when you create a team, so it's easy to search and people know what that team's about.
That's good.
Especially if it's a public one. And of course, the dreaded thing, which it can be dreaded or good, is the fact that when you create a team, you are creating an Office 365 group. So by doing so, you're getting a SharePoint site, you're getting a shared mailbox, a shared calendar, a shared OneNote, and a shared planner, exactly like you do when you create a SharePoint site, or if you create a new group in Yammer, you're always creating these Office 365 groups. The thing that's different with the Teams ones is the group won't be listed under groups in Outlook.
Right, okay.
So there is that difference. So, it did confuse people. They were saying they were creating a team and then they were going into their Outlook and seeing this thing listed under group, and they were saying which one should I be using. So they are there, they're just hidden.
Right.
If you've done it the other way around, so if you created your group first, you can create a team based on an Office 365 group, so it links back to those things behind the scenes. So, if it depends what you want. If you want it to appear in Outlook, create the group first and then do the team. If you want it not to appear in Outlook, create the team and then use the group. Other than PowerShell, but I'll just know the fudge way to do it. So really, it's time to show it. I have a very limited amount of time here, so I am going to whiz through, so I apologise for that. It's not a training session, it's an introduction. So I've picked some things that I think are cool, and I'll show those, but if you want more, you're going to have to come on my course. So let's get into the beastie. So here we have the desktop application of Teams. Chris is on the mobile version, so because Chris is a member of my team. I've set up the different teams down here, and the one I'm going to use is Demo Gods. And we all need to pray to the Demo Gods doing a live webinar. So you'll see here the name of the team, and there's ellipsis telling me there's more options, and I can manage the team and see who the members of the team are because I'm an owner of that team. Each team that we create has these things called channels. And I always think of these, I'm quite old, so I remember when we had these things called filing cabinets. And, so if you think of each team as a filing cabinet, each filing cabinet has drawers, and in the drawer there are tabs, and your content is put in those tabs. Or you might think about your shared drive where you've got folders, and you've got folders within those folders, and we know we want to move away from that. So whenever you create a team, you'll get a channel called General, and that each channel has tabs going across the right here that have content in them. The ones you get by default are Conversations, Files, and Wiki. But you can add your own, and this is where you really add value to your teams, and this is where I've really seen it working, is where as an owner of a team, you add a tab linking to the content that's relevant to your bit of the project. So your users, they come in here and everything's along the left-hand side or the right-hand side or the search, they've got everything. They're not having to keep going off to other applications. So let's talk about these tabs just for a minute, and then I'll show you some other ones that I've added. On General, we've got Conversations. This is the area that should replace your group emails. So instead of sending an email to 15 different people and getting all these different replies, and you come back and you've got so many unread emails, now we use the Conversations area where we would put something in here, and anything that we write in here, every member of the team can read it, so everyone can see it. But the thing that everyone gets wrong, they forget to address it. If you were sending an email, you would put an address. In Teams, you have to @mention people. So you do the @ symbol and then the name of the person. You can @mention a channel, or you can @mention a team, and that way they get notified that they've been mentioned. Because over time, people become in lots of teams with lots of channels, and they're not going to go in and read everything.
No.
But it's great because you get your activity feed, and you can go and filter that and search it and look at the things that are relevant to you, and you can customize what notifications you get and when you get those notifications.
Which is a big deal for a lot of people, because they'll always say, I get communications from many different systems, mainly Yammer.
Yeah.
So this way you can say, look, go to your settings and choose what you get notifications for.
Yeah. So we have these conversations. The other thing that people do is you start a conversation and then you want someone to reply. So I could say, welcome to webinar. And I'm going to say @Chris because I know he's in here. So Chris gets a notification that he's been mentioned in that. But what usually happens is you get things, Chris comes in and starts typing here, starting a new conversation, rather than replying to there. And you can see that I've just got the thumbs up from Chris because Chris liked that message. So you build up these conversation blocks that you can save and things. And the beauty of this, the main thing, how many times do you have a project where you have someone join who wasn't in the project right from the beginning, and you end up having to go into your inbox and forward them old emails, and you're hunting through and having to find stuff. Or if this was a project, maybe we're talking about new policies within the organisation, and we're working on documents and we're discussing that document here, because you can add a link to the document and have the conversation. We want legal to come and check. Legal are going to join our project team probably for 2 weeks and then leave again. Instead of them having to have that email in their clutter their inbox, they can come in here, they can read the bits that they need to read, and then they can leave.
Yeah.
And we've got one copy of everything in one place. It's all fully searchable. So it's great, the conversations. Files. Well, you're going to get a whoopie-doo from me because it's SharePoint. It's really a SharePoint document library. But it doesn't look like one. It looks like OneDrive, which people are familiar with. So you can have your required columns and all this stuff running in the background and flows that you've set up in the background for it. But your users, they're just coming in and uploading a document or reading a document or searching for a document.
Keeps it simple, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it depends what you can make. You can make it all complicated in SharePoint, go for your life. But those of you that want it simple, then you can just use your Teams. I love it because it's the best of both.
Yeah.
So actually I'm going to show you this other channel that I set up here, intermediaries, and I've added lots of different tabs on this one. And so this is a bit of overkill, but it's to show you the kind of things you've got. So I've got conversations again, I've got files, I've got useful information, which was actually the wiki, but I've just renamed it as useful information, and I've put some onboarding information for people. I've mentioned there that the Hipmunk bot has been added to this channel. Hipmunk is a bot that you can use for travel. It's pretty cool, actually.
So that'd be cool. Like,
yeah.
you could have operational hours, who to contact in certain
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah.
It could be a really useful place to
Yeah.
put info.
So it's kind of stuff that's fairly static information,
Yeah.
but it's just there. But anybody in the team can come and edit it at any time. So if someone comes in and they say that's up to date, that's out of date. Instead of sending me an email telling me it's out of date, just come and
Just change
just
it.
do it. We've got a tab for meeting notes, and I'm going to cover that more in a while. But it is again just a wiki of notes. Policies is another SharePoint document library. This one might be an organisation-wide document library, so I know everyone's got access to it. But instead of having to leave Teams and leave our project that they're working on, and go to SharePoint and look for these, I've just put a link to that SharePoint document library because I know we're always working on it. So I've just had a link here, and they can do everything direct. They can search for things. They can do new documents straight into this library from here or upload. So that's pretty cool. Another one, I've added a website that you can add any websites to these tabs. So I've put Sky just to show that it can be done. Planner is another. Because you've created an Office 365 group, behind the scenes you've created a planner. It's an Office 365 application. It's included in your tenant. It's a great little tool, actually. You've got different views of your tasks, and it's just you set up tasks, assign them to different people, have discussions on the different tasks. You'll notice that all mine are out of date, but you can open them up and you can see there, you can have reads, and you can have people can add comments, so you can have a conversation stream coming up about that task.
It's a nice little lightweight tool for managing tasks. Yeah.
And you just think about it, you're here as a team, it's a project, you might have tasks. You add these things called buckets, and you have different lists of tasks in each bucket, and then you can group by the bucket, and like say, you get these nice little views.
It's a cool little reporting tool,
Yeah. You do get another calendar, which annoyingly doesn't link into Outlook, so we've got a calendar and yet another calendar. So we do can get a bit of calendar overkill.
Surprising how popular Planner is these days.
Yeah, very. And I think because they've started to make some improvements now. It was very static. They've started the alerts coming through, and we're waiting. There's supposed to be one where you can get the notification. You can do it with Flow, but out of the box they're going to be adding some sort of flow so that if you've got tasks that are due or overdue, the notification will go in the conversations area of Teams,
very good.
rather than just to the individual, so the whole team can see it. You might like that, you might not. You might think, I don't want people knowing. Notebook, again, this is the OneNote Notebook, but because it's a group, Office 365 group, you've got a shared OneNote, so you might as well use it, and everyone in the team can work on this. So the same as with our documents, we can co-author documents, we can co-author our OneNote, so we can all be going in here and doing this. And as we know, OneNote is searchable. So if you've got text in a picture, it's searchable. So that was my attempt at
it's
adding an arrow.
progressing.
I'm not sure why I put the arrow there. I really don't.
He's exiting the meeting.
I'm sure it was late one
night. The nice
night.
thing is that if I wanted to jump into this at the same time and play around with the notes, the Teams is using SharePoint to produce co-authoring, so multiple authors can be in the same file at the same time, which means that I don't lock Caroline out of the notes. We can both contribute at the same time and see each other's updates in real time. Yeah.
So I'd done that. It was just to show that all these different things. But the other one that I've added is I've added a link to TrainingPlus. TrainingPlus is our cloud-based training app, which Chris will talk to you about later. But it's just to show that it's not a Microsoft app. It's ours. And you might have other third-party apps that are cloud-based. You can add a tab that links directly into them. So again, I'm not having to leave Teams. It's all here. So I'm basically chained to this project, and I don't have to go around looking for other tools. But it is a good way of doing things. I mean, people I love SharePoint, but do people really need to know that policies library is a SharePoint document library? All they need to know is I go to Teams and put something into policies, and that could actually, it takes away some of the fear, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm waffling on. So I'm going to quickly show you something cool now. So one of the tabs is meetings. So we all know that when we've got this project, we're going to have lots of meetings. Meetings synchronizes with your Outlook calendar. So you can set up a new team meeting from Outlook, the same as you used to set up Skype meetings. There's a button for it in Outlook. And they do link. However, there is one really big reason why you should schedule a meeting in Teams, and that is the fact that you can set up a meeting into a channel. So to prove what that happens is I'm going to say webinar. When I set up the meeting, I can choose rooms if I've got them set up, set the date and time. I can do recurring, just exactly the same as you could with any Outlook meeting. I'm not going to go into that. But I can choose which team it is, and then I can choose which channel I want to use. Went past it. So it's intermediaries, and I can invite someone, and I'll invite Chris because he doesn't like to be kept out of anything.
Well, I'm free.
Yeah,
I can join it.
He never does anything. So because I've scheduled that meeting, it will have gone into my Outlook. It will have gone to Chris as an Outlook request for him to accept and gone into his Outlook calendar. It's gone into the calendar here for meetings. But back in our team, in our channel, you'll see that it's added a new conversation saying that Caroline scheduled a meeting. We can now have a discussion about that. And you'll see that Chris has replied to that, and he's mentioned the whole channel saying, can everyone please contribute to the agenda, please? And I could go and I could say, thanks, Chris, or just like it. Thanks, Chris. And we're starting to have a conversation about this. It might be that I want to say that I've got a document that I want people to bring along to this. So Chris has asked, it's okay. That's the only trouble now with these meetings, because they're online. You have to have virtual cake.
I don't want to send a sticker of a cake. That's not as nearly as tasty.
Yeah. But actually, we joke about it, but it doesn't have to be a virtual meeting. You do have, you can have both, can't you? Some in a meeting room. So maybe I've got a document that I want to attach that's important about this. Then I can browse. I can go from my computer or from OneDrive. Got some board papers we need to think. So again, I can add this. Please read prior to the meeting. So I've done that. So that's now all in there. So we're having a conversation all about this meeting. There's not emails flying backwards and forward. I haven't got people going into Word and then into these. So what about when we go into the meeting then? I'm going to start talking really, really fast because we're going to run out of time. Oh, hello, that's Christine. See, this is the trouble. Oh, yeah, nice. It's a coffee cake.
It's
do you know
digital
what?
cake.
I've just remembered you forgot to bring me coffee cake. But anyway.
Oh, sorry.
We digress. Anyway, because that's gone in, I'm going to go into my calendar. Oh, look, I've got a meeting coming up. It's the webinar. I could chat to the people that are coming prior to the meeting, but I'm just going to join the meeting. And I've turned my webcam off, so you'll be glad to hear. You don't have to see my scary face, but you've got this choice to turn your webcam on and off. If your webcam's on, you can also blur your background, which is quite cool, so that people can't see everything that's going on behind you. And they are doing this new thing where you can have a custom one. I say join now. And you can see Chris is already there, eagerly waiting to have this meeting. So we start in our meeting. We've got online meeting, and wow, that's really big now.
I didn't mean for it to be. See, the cool thing is you can switch it like horizontally as well. There we go.
Oh, there. You
Yeah,
see our lovely recording room. So whilst I'm in this meeting, I've got options with the buttons down the bottom here. I can share my desktop, so I could actually decide that I'm going to show a PowerPoint presentation. What's also cool is I can click here and I can decide to record the meeting. So I can say start recording. Now when I start recording a meeting, I get a banner come up to tell me I'm recording it, but everyone in the meeting also gets a banner telling them that it's been recorded. So you can't have something recorded without you knowing. Then I might start my PowerPoint presentation and I'm showing everyone my slides, and I won't do that because it's confusing, because I'll let you keep looking at Chris's handsome face. And then we can carry on with the meeting, and anyone that isn't here, we know they can look at that recording after. The other thing that's going on here is maybe Chris has mentioned a website or something that he thinks is good. We'll see on the top right, we've still got buttons and the chat is still open to us. So Chris has just put in the URL of a website he thinks that would be really good. So I could click on that during the meeting and I'm sharing my screen and I could show everybody else it, or we could just discuss it, but I've got that there. Then I decide, actually, I'm going to take some notes. I think I'm going to give some people some actions. So I just click on the button there for meeting notes and I can take notes. These notes, we saw the tab earlier. It comes up as a new tab in our channel. Everyone, it's going to be an action notes. There you go. I've renamed something. But anyone can go and type in those. Learn to spell. So we've got these things going on. We can do all this as the meeting's going on. I could decide to end the recording now if I wanted, because I know we've got something private that we want to discuss. So I'm stopping the recording, but the meeting still continues. We could still carry on doing that. In fact, if we wanted, I could go and click on the plus and I could add another participant as well at this point. So we've done our meeting and I hang up. What's happened now is in our conversations tab of the channel, so we're in intermediaries and conversations, you can now see that we've got all this information about that meeting all in one place. So we've got the discussion that we had prior to the meeting. We've then got the cake, the important cake. You can see that the webinar started, so now you know. This is during the meeting.
Yeah.
And you can see the link to the website that Chris sent. You can see a link to the meeting notes that I was taking. And then you can see that there is going to be a recording. It will appear in a few minutes. The recording goes into stream.
Right.
It's only people that are in this team can see this, can see the meeting in stream. It is locked down, it's security trimmed. There it is, and you just click on that and you play it from here. The other thing is you can still have discussions after the meeting. So, we can carry on and we can go up. How great is that? If you were away, you missed the meeting, you can come in, you can see everything about that. Or if you've just joined the project, this was a meeting about, it was a kick-off meeting about the project and everyone's there and I missed it. I'm now part of the project and you feel like you've really missed. Instead of having to ask someone to tell me everything that was said,
just watch
I can just go in, I can just watch it. I can see all the documents that everybody else had. I can see the presentation that they saw. And if we had done it, another one is you record your meeting in chunks. And so the one presentation, maybe it wasn't a presentation that was from someone who'd come from finance to tell us how to fill in an expense claim form. Well, we could actually keep that recording. We could share that out to the whole of the department or people that aren't in this team, the whole organisation. It can be reused.
The cool thing is, when going back to your statement about sort of you missed the project meeting, I mean, I've got the app on my phone. I've got the play button for the meeting that Caroline's just recorded. I could be on the bus thinking, I'll just watch that meeting on the way home. And I can actually provide commentary in the chat window as well about, oh, sorry, I wasn't in that meeting, but 3 minutes in, you mentioned this. I've got some ideas around that. Here they are. So you can still collaborate with it after the meeting's over.
So I think that's a very quick run through demo of how we collaborate in the Teams bit. So Teams is huge and I certainly haven't got time to go through it all, but just so you know, the activity area is private to you. That's where you get your notifications about where Chris was, where I'd sent messages to Chris and whatever. You get a notifications here and you can choose their full searchable. Your chat is between you and your peers, one-to-one or one-to-many. It doesn't matter. You can have those conversations and you can very quickly turn a chat into a video or telephone call by clicking on the buttons there.
And that's kind of like the Skype bit inside Teams, isn't it?
And meetings, you've got your calendar. It's private to you. It's your calendar and your Outlook calendar. So it's not full collaboration. It's only the Teams bit of Teams that is this collaboration. And then the files is great because it will show you not only files that you were working on in Teams, but files that you're working on in OneDrive and in SharePoint. So you've got all that information there.
Sometimes when people say, well, I need to work in OneDrive and I need to work in Teams, I say, just work in Teams, because you can see your OneDrive, you can upload files, you can edit files, you can move and copy files. You can actually just do all of that from within Teams as well.
Yeah. And don't forget, you've got a great big search box, because it's a great big search.
Yeah. For keywords inside of documents and PDF files, keywords from conversations, it's a huge breadth of information that you're pulling into that search, as well as some cool little shortcut commands as well.
So that is a whistle-stop tour of Teams.
It is.
And one cool feature.
So yeah, that was touring Teams, channels and tabs, meetings and private areas. So that was really a really good sort of first steps into Microsoft Teams. So now we're just going to sort of pry into a couple of ways that how can you build this message within your organization. So a couple of things that we can help with. We can help with adoption, which we'll talk about shortly. We can also help with support and education for something as big as Teams, but also Office 365 as well. So I'll do a very short demonstration utilizing Caroline's lovely Teams environment shortly. But I just want to talk about a couple of products that we have at Combined Knowledge to help organizations with going live with something like Microsoft Teams. So we have a solution called TrainingPlus, which is basically, if you think of Caroline's potential one-day course, quite often you can't schedule everyone in a business to come on that one-day course. It's a lot of people out of the business for a long period of time. So what we often do is we could actually say, look, this is the course on demand, broken down by lessons, and you can watch chunks of that as you sort of have free time to do so and study. It's accessible through the app launcher in Office 365. So you've got all this wealth of high quality on-demand training available directly inside Office 365. One of the things that we've got are direct links. So direct links allow us to push the power of something like TrainingPlus directly into web browsers and even Microsoft Teams. I hijacked your environment actually recently. You may not have noticed this, but like I've put a little Garfield thing here. This is supposed. Yeah, Caroline brought back Rock from the Seaside the other day, so I thought I'd put Garfield and Odie there, just sort of gathering all of that, all of it delightful candy. But my colleague Tom, he gave me a couple of really cool hyperlinks to some videos in not just Teams but also OneDrive as well. So with TrainingPlus, you can either sort of navigate around our user interface, go into Teams, go into a subtopic of Teams, and then learn through our interface about how to use Teams. But you can also bring these videos in whatever shape, way or form you think is going to benefit you. This is going to play a video on, let's say, creating Microsoft Teams. So I click in here, and I'm just going to lower the volume.
Some of the most important information to be worked with as a team would be stored in...
We got caught watching this for probably longer than we should have the other day. I'll just pause, Rob, for a second. So one thing just to mention here is that we've got the luxury of splitting up Office 365 topics in TrainingPlus into whatever format fits you. So we may have probably 30 videos on just using Microsoft Teams, but if you wanted to create a new starters process where you get a mixture of a bit from OneDrive, a bit from Teams, a bit from SharePoint, you can create your own interfaces for linking to our videos. So this is just an example of one of our training videos. Like I say, we've got our own user interface for this, but you can build your own that link directly into our training content. Coming soon is dynamic branding as well. So your branding, rather than the Combined Knowledge one, could appear over these videos. So it looks like your own solution at the end of the day. So that's quite exciting too. The other product that I wanted to mention briefly is also Support Plus. This is more your help desk in Office 365. So I used to work in IT support. When we go live with new IT systems, we get a wealth of questions coming from the business around these solutions. So the idea behind Support Plus is it's just-in-time support for Office 365, which integrates with your Office 365 apps and provides you with step-by-step guides to common tasks. So if you wanted to learn how to upload a file into Microsoft Teams, it gives you steps and tips onto how to do that. We also provide more detailed instructions for every task, and every task also has a short video to complement different learning styles. The idea is that we get you and your workforce back to the task at hand and alleviate common questions coming into your service desk. If you are interested in either of these products, we can provide you with a little bit more information about that shortly. The other thing that I'd like to do is just allow Caroline just to have a little bit of a chat with you about the one-day Teams course that has very recently been finalised.
Yeah, hot off the press. I finally finished the Teams one-day course. Every time I was writing this, things kept changing. It's difficult to keep on top of Teams with different changes coming through. This is a course that we've been asked for quite a lot, and it is a popular one where it's aimed at the power user. So where I showed you earlier, we've got lots of different tabs in the Teams and things like that. That would have been done by the owner, so it would be Teams owners. I mean, it's ideal for Teams owners and members alike, but really, if you're an owner, you're going to get a lot of benefit out of this. How can I use Teams to make it easy for all our users? But we don't just go into the collaboration area. We also talk about the chat. So we go into that in a lot of detail. There's lots of tips about that. A lot more into the meetings and working with our files, and then all these important settings and the different add-ins you can say, like all those bots, and can we work with Dropbox? What about Flow? All these things. Twitter, I set things up so you can have Twitter feeds coming in. There's all these different things that we can discuss and how you can use Teams in more detail. And it's a full-on day. There's a lot to get in one day. Gone are the times where I can talk about Teams. It's hard to talk about Teams in 40 minutes. But yes, that's written. And at the end of every module, there are hands-on labs for you to have a go yourself. And of course, there is a full manual that comes with the course. So it'd be good to see some of you on that.
Yes, and there's loads of hands-on exercises for that as well. So you do get lots of hands-on experience with trainer instruction as well. So it's going to be a very valuable experience. I've been productive for once, and I've put in the handout section of this webinar, I've put a Microsoft Word document with the following hyperlinks that you'll see on this slide. If you want to grab those hyperlinks now, it's in the handout section, but I'll remember to put it into the chat feed as well, just as replies, so that people can grab the links that way too. If you mosey on to the Combined Knowledge website, which is www.combined-knowledge.com, and go to the Training Courses tab, you'll see upcoming deliveries, one of which is this session that's going to be going on the 4th of June. I think I've got the luxury of the first delivery of that, so I'm very excited about teaching it. However, if you want to try something different, Caroline and Steve Smith from Combined Knowledge have both been doing these fantastic one-day Teams events. The next one of which is happening on the 5th of June, which is going to be delivered by Steve up in Edinburgh. And there's another one on the 11th of July in London. So that's hosted by Combined Knowledge and AvePoint. If you're interested in that, obviously
get in quick.
Did you say it's standing room only?
Yeah, the one we did last month in Kensington the room was completely full in the end. It was really, really well received. Words got out, and they're getting really popular now.
The feedback's been really, really good for those sessions. So I just say that the escalated value is well worth your perceived time getting to those events. So definitely show up to those. There's a lot of value in it. If you want to sign up for those events, like I said, they are free events. So if you go to the Combined Knowledge website and go to the events section, you'll find the Modern Workplace Adoption events in there. So we've talked about Microsoft Teams. We've given you this sort of step-by-step approach to that. We've talked about where you can get support and education from SupportPlus and TrainingPlus. We've also talked about the one-day Teams course and the upcoming Teams events that are happening as well. One last thing you might be thinking is a lot of these approaches are sort of quite generic. They don't really tailor themselves exactly to the way our organization works. So we are here to help with that as well. We understand, due to the wealth of projects that we've worked on, how we get successful adoption of Teams. And it's not by spewing out the same generic stuff, it's more about making sure it's tailored to those deliverables in your organization. So one of the things I just wanted to wrap up with is that Combined Knowledge can help you with your adoption projects. Whether you want your learning to happen on site, we can travel to different geographical locations, both locally and internationally, as well as provide digital online learning through seminars similar to the one that you're attending today, where people can watch and learn and interact with the trainer as well. The difference is that we'll customize through a project lead contact the training that you require for your organization. So we can take the governance, what you do and don't want them to learn, what you've set up and what you've restricted, and we can put the right message in front of your users, delivered by experts, offering hands-on experience to those delegates who turn up for the training. Whether you want to just train your champions or whether you want to do a large-scale rollout to all of the individuals that will be using these pieces of technology, we're there with the experience to help you with this. The nice thing as well is that we're also very adept in producing customized videos as well. So for those who really want return on investment and really like our TrainingPlus product, we could create a series of videos that are exactly the kind of message that you want to be sending to your organization and show the exact steps and the methods that you would use to achieve certain goals. So we've got our, you probably saw earlier when I had the webcam on, we've got cameras, we've got green screen, we've got lighting. We use this facility to create really high-end video content for your organization. And things like tip sheets go a long way as well. As part of these adoption projects, we sometimes learn from the deliveries what kind of common things people are finding difficult, and we can turn those into like digital tip sheets or printed tip sheets that you can use in your organization. The exciting thing about this is that you may be able to pay for this by just utilizing your existing Microsoft training vouchers. Microsoft training vouchers are often provided as part of a Office 365 onboarding process, and they often go unspent, just sitting there with thousands of pounds worth of free training that you could potentially utilize. So if you have training vouchers and you want to make use of them, you could contact Combined Knowledge with the information that will follow shortly about using those training vouchers against things like custom workshops to help you adopt tools like Teams within your organization. So we've got our way to the end of the webinar, 45 minutes later. I think we did really well for timings. Yeah. So let me just say that we'll be doing Q&A very shortly. I'll cut it off the video, so the YouTubers who are watching this, do apologise, our Q&A can go on for a while. So what we're going to do is we're just going to sort of stop the video when I just sort of sign off, but we will do the Q&A. I noticed there are questions already, so we will have a look at those and we'll answer any questions in line. So one of the things that I just wanted to say is that our webinar series will grow. I think in the next month or so, we'll put out another mailer to let you know about our next webinar. I think one thing that I want to talk about is a big topic is businesses that are using SharePoint and the difference between classic and modern SharePoint. This topic is often sort of batted around quite a lot. I want to sort of explain to businesses that are clinging to classic why they should move forward to modern, what tools they can use to help progress that, and what are the sort of benefits of moving to modern SharePoint. So if you are using classic SharePoint or you're not too sure what classic is, we'll talk about the difference between these experiences and what we can potentially do to progress as an organization using classic onto modern. So if you're still using classic, that's going to be a really useful webinar to go to. Also, I'm campaigning for any additional ideas that you have for courses that you feel do not exist. If you've navigated to various different course providers and you're not finding a course that you think different training companies are providing for you, let me know through sales@combined-knowledge.com. We'll be able to tell you if we could potentially piece together a new course to help you and other people learn about those particular topics. If you need to get in contact with us, the contact number is available on the screen, as well as our contact email address for our sales team as well. For those of you who have delightfully stuck around to the end of the webinar, what I'll ask you to do is we do have a competition to give away a £50 voucher for Amazon. So if you place your email address with hashtag Teams, which we'll use to randomly find the hashtag and then generate a winner, If you do hashtag Teams and then separately put your email address, so hashtag Teams space and then your email address, what we'll do is we'll use a little algorithm to find hashtag Teams, pull out a random, and then what we'll do after this webinar is my delightful colleague will contact you via email with your information about your winnings. So if you do get an email from us after the webinar, it might be your free ebook, but it also might be a free Amazon voucher as well. So definitely get involved with that.
Am I in that then? I could do with a
No.
£50 Amazon voucher.
As could I. Unfortunately, we're actually signed into this webinar as our colleague Aaron, and Aaron would likely get the voucher, not us. So either way, I don't think we're getting anything for this. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. We will do Q&A shortly, but those of you who are watching this on YouTube, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again in the next webinar.